Om Mantranam Jivabhuta Tuya Smrita Shakti Rupaya Tatahina Vararohe Nishvalaha Sharata Bravat. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. She who is known and remembered by the seers as the imperishable Shakti is the soul of all mantras. Without her, O fair ones, all the tattvas would be as useless as clouds without rain. She is the perfect I consciousness, existing in the abundance of words as their very essence, and the essence of all non-dualism as well. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karva Vahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvesho Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us, and may Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the teachings or with the world. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. And so we meet here at our Kedarnath Center. We have a Butternut Center not far from here, up in the hills above the ocean, and then here overlooking the volcano, which is not the volcano which is flowing right now, so for your information. We have this small center where we give our live streaming classes to you on Sundays, almost every Sunday we can, although last weekend we were on retreat at the other center, Butternut, and we were looking into the three great pillars of India called Samkhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. You could say there are many other pillars also in India that have come out of India, like Jainism and Buddhism and others, but basically these three are very well pronounced and developed, and there are traces of Samkhya still present in the teachings of India that we get. You have to sort of look into it and ferret them out. And then there is, of course, yoga is still somewhat present, although a lot of it has been veiled by the Hatha Yoga craze and so forth. But the real eight-limbed yoga is still there if you can find teachers that will take you into it, starting with the yamas and niyamas and going on to past just asana and breathing to actually the disciplines of the mind, which really get to the point of the matter and to the essence of yoga. And then Vedanta, most current because Swami Vivekananda brought it here in 1893 at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, as we know, and was really the forerunner to this great darshana, or this clear path of seeing. And he will be the one to, from a bodiless or formless condition, because he used to say, I'd like to be a voice without a form. So he will be the one that's speaking to us and through us about this great darshana, which was, you might say, quintessentialized and and saved from extinction, in part, by Vedavyas, who's affectionately called the father of Vedanta, and saved many of those teachings, including 108 Upanishads, with the help of great lineages like the Shankara order, and Shankara, who commented on some of those Upanishads. And therefore, even here in America, and some 500, 1,000, 1,500, almost 2,000 years since Patanjali, father of yoga, brought it right forth into our country here through the vehicle of Swami Vivekananda, at the behest of his great teacher, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And with the presence of Divine Mother behind the both of them, not only in form as Sharda Devi, who was on the scene as the great master's spiritual consort, but also the hidden power in everything, the Shakti, the Devatma Shakti. And I can chant that next week as we start our second class, because this is going to be a 3-part class. And what's it called? Mantra, karma, and purification. So mantra, karma, and purification is a 3-part class, and it's going to be given in 3 classes, I think. So we won't have nearly enough time to cover it all, but this class I'll take the 3 hours or so, minus the break that we have in the middle, and speak a lot on the subject of mantra. Of the 350 of these visuals or charts that I've produced, there's a good 7 or 8 that are all on mantra, and another 3, 4, or 5 in the Tantra tradition, another great pillar, which have a lot to do with mantra, like this one here that was just recently colorized, called Sadakya. So back to the Divine Mother, there are beings who know her as a form, sometimes 2-armed, sometimes 4-armed, sometimes 6-armed, sometimes 8-armed, sometimes 12-armed and 16-armed Durga. So they're thinking of her as a deity in form. And then we know that there is Shakti as Kali, which is a more formless form, or a divine energy that's very hard to put into form or depict in form, and when she is depicted in form, quite terrifying looking for most folks. And but with deep symbology behind. I have a book that I put out that's gotten fairly popular amongst people who follow Indian Dharma, called The 24 Aspects of Mother Kali, that show what her long black hair signifies, and why she's holding boons, mudras, and why she has a sword and a severed head, and all these different symbologies that people can learn about the real inner essence of Mother Kali, which goes much deeper than just the external form. But what I chanted this morning, or at the beginning of this class, it's now afternoon, but was this mantra from the Tantras, Sadbhava Tantra, that has to do with the hidden power in words. And there is a whole Indian darshana, other than just the external worship of Mother, of a form, and even other than how one might look at her as a compassionate goddess, a deity of any type, that is actually very much in line with the Jnana Yoga tradition. It's all about wisdom, and it has to do with her presence in every word, her presence in all the mantras, and even her presence in particles of words, letters, and even her presence in particles of letters. We know how many particles there are in an object, all the way down to subatomic particles, and those are changing at a billionth of a second, and you can't really go any further with them. In the same way, the wisdom particle has many, many levels to it, and some of these particles are forming worlds. Like if you were to say Bhur Bhuva Swaha, for instance, the great beginning of the great Gayatri mantra, these words, Bhur Bhuva Swaha, are actually powerful words that are used and have been used since beginning of cycles of time to manifest worlds. The power of the whole world is in the seed, just like all the power for growth here is in the seeds of trees and the seeds of grasses and so forth, and in the seeds in man. And so all of these seeds depict this great ideology of Mother Power, or Devatma Shaktim, existing in everything. And it even goes beyond, of course, the physical, like atomic seed, the power in, the great power in splitting an atom. There's even a greater, subtler power in the intelligent particle, because that's the next level of the particle would be where your ancestors went, for instance. Bur, Buvaha. So Bur would be like a level of where Bhutas, physical beings like animals, insects, plants, and mankind's bodies are. And then the next level of particle would be Bhuvaha, where you'd find these elementals or ancestors. And then you could assign these two words to these, like earth, lower heaven, and higher heaven, for instance, if you want to use English. But these are all kings of heaven within you. And the way that India loves to, both Vedas and Tantra love to explain this, is by particles and by vibration. And if you go to yoga, it's leaning more towards the vibration, vritti. But that vibration in the mind that you're thinking is based on these very self-same seeds that the Vedic tradition has been talking about ever since the word was heard by the seers in their deepest meditation. And the Devatma Shaktim, this divine energy, was perceived by their subtle intellects. Svetashvatara Upanishad has that beautiful chant, Te Dhyan Yoga it means Te Dhyan Yoga means practicing the yoga of meditation. So when they practiced the yoga of meditation, they got beyond the intellectual frame of reference and began to have vision of her, sometimes with form, sometimes without form. And the way in which they explained what they tracked inside of their own consciousness was by levels of particle and vibration. So Tantra and Vedanta, or Tantra and Vedas, have shared this wisdom together. It's hard to find out where teachings on the word start and leave off in these two darshanas. They shared them so deeply. We've often talked about Veda and Tantra being two rivers that have flowed in India from time out of mind, and they mingle their waters, and they come apart, and they mingle their waters. So very difficult to find out where one starts and the other ends off. One starts and ends off, and the other begins. And because of this confluence that's always flowing through time, time is a kind of a river too. And so streams of consciousness are also kinds of rivers. And you'd have to understand waves to understand a river. And so in order to understand your own thoughts, you're going to have to understand the seeds that give rise to them. We know that the seeds that give rise to impure thoughts, or restless thoughts, or lackadaisical thoughts, depression, but those seeds would be better left alone, or transcended. But the fathers of these different traditions talk about vrittis that are more pure, and the entire Indian subcontinent from time out of mind, and all the philosophies, or let's say most of the philosophies that have come from the great thinkers of India, trace themselves back to the word. And the word is that bijam, or seed, which is the greatest of all seed words. And we hear it even being repeated to John by Jesus. In the beginning was the word was with God. So even in the Middle Eastern traditions, it began to surface that there was this, let's call it supreme matrix, if you will, which was a sort of intermediary between the formless Brahman, or the light of consciousness, and everything that was produced out of consciousness, everything that formed on the, like waves on the breast of an ocean. So those are metaphors, and many of these metaphors are used in the different traditions. And so when we talk about then mantra, which we'll talk about today, then we're going to look at some of these as an introduction to mantra, because before we've just basically talked about mantra as practice, how I use the mantra that the Guru gave to me, and if it's succeeding, if it's doing its job of purification. So mantra, karma, and purification. Before class, one student asked, he says, what do the three have to do with each other? And so mantra destroys karmas. Mantra can also awaken and fructify good karmas. And it does that by purifying the subconscious mind where seeds are stored. Seeds like grand seeds like Bhurbhuvasvaha, but also seeds like that produce stars, body, prana, sun, senses, and so forth. We'll look at that chart after we get the introduction here. So one of the charts I want to look at, and it would actually take probably a week of classes to really go through, so we're being a little bit ambitious here by bringing this up as the first offering. But if one were to understand Sadakya, what's called the 6 paths of knowledge leading to perfection, or the 6 ways of attaining Brahmagyan in Tantra, one would begin to start down this path of the word. And this has usually been given to the mystics to go down that path, people who have a penchant for moving inside of themselves, and they don't have anything in the way of moving inside of themselves. Because many people don't know there's an inside of themselves. It's certainly not in the body, and certainly not in outer space, because that's outside. So you're moving back into thought process, into your own mind, then into the collective mind, and then into the cosmic mind. Or, we talked about it at the retreat last week as being your gross body, your subtle body, and your causal body. Put 3 other assignments there: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and then what's beyond them, Turiya, or the 4th state. Then you pretty much have a good idea of a general wisdom, or a sort of template, if you will, of what this path consists of, what you're actually doing when you involve. Because we've said before that evolution alone is not doing it, and a creation, 7-day creation theory, that has a beginning, middle, and end, origins also won't do it. India is always thought in terms of non-origination, that everything is all the time. There's no birth, there's no death. There's no birth, there's no life, there's no death. That's real. And the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep are also rather dreamlike, and they've even been called dreams by great seers. So when you think about these Triputis, or these great teachings of India, then you always come down to this teaching of the word, and people who beat their path towards the word is always going back to the source of things, or the source of origins. So when Jesus was talking to John about in the beginning was the word, he was talking about the remote cause of everything, which is a word, a great word. And the vibration that word causes are the vibrations that are caused are very very subtle at first. In fact, even causal. They're seeds, and then when they break into a greater intensity of vibration, then they start to create the potential for worlds, and after that they become worlds. So this is all coming off of the word, and beings who know the word know that all knowledge, this mother power that we've just been talking about, are present in these words as their essence. She's the soul of all mantras, and she's the secret in all mantras, as we just chanted. So, and that way you wouldn't really be looking at Divine Mother as a personage, or a personality, or a form. you'd be looking at her as a essence of wisdom. And in that way is how she makes her way around the 4 feet of Brahman. The Brahmapada, they call it, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and samadhi. She herself works her way through the beings that are in all these states as mercurial liquid wisdom, if you will, that's so swift that nobody can follow it. And those who try and follow it, they're taken to such a deep state that they lose track of their egos and their minds, and that's called samadhi. If it's conscious, it's called samadhi. So that's why we all need to wake up and hear this great teaching, you see, and remain awake and focused on it. And if you can do that, then you're qualified to reach deep inside yourself. Now, the mystics are able to do that, so they remain focused on the essence as they move in. As they remain focused on the essence, the non-essence disappears. So you'll lose your body, you'll lose your 5 senses, you'll lose the 5 elements. It's much like a death, only death for most people is not a conscious departing of the body by a consciousness that's eternal. It might be a going to heaven by some subtle body that hasn't been defined to you. But in India, they define it very well, that as you're living, you have 3 bodies, and they're available to you at all times. It's not just your physical body that's available to you. When you go to sleep at night, you have a dream body, and that's very real. I mean, it's ultimately unreal, as we say in Vedanta, but it is as real to you as the waking state, and sometimes more real if you bring your consciousness with you when you fall asleep. If you just fall into sleep and you're thinking occasionally about things that happened to you in your life, or maybe even in past lifetimes, then you're subject to scattered dreams, like most people are. And so they'll never know of this connecting power of Shakti through the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. Therefore, they can't get into a formless state, because that would be your deep sleep state. Everyone goes into formlessness and is perfectly happy in formlessness when they go to sleep and have deep sleep, or what's called Sushupti. So, Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti are words, right? And they're words in Sanskrit for waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Since those states have words, then she abides in each one of those words as the essence of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. So you can take any word anywhere, and most people will take those words and assign it to objects. But what if you were to take those words and take them back towards their source? And so the couch becomes a dream couch tonight, and the rug becomes a dream rug, and your friends become dream friends. Your body becomes an angelic or dream body. So you've turned and you've drawn back the power of words using the Devatma Shaktim, either consciously or not, and you've returned to this subtle body that you have, Sukshma Sharira. And if you were to go beyond those dreams consciously, then you would get into the Karana Sharira, and that means a causal body, and that's where deep sleep is. If you brought your consciousness into that, you'd find all these seeds for all the worlds. And all the minds and thoughts of the humans, the ancestors, the angels or celestials, the deities or suras and asuras, and even the seers and saints and the trinities have all been involved back to this seedless state, formless state. Now you can get into that naturally, which is not the best thing. We like the word natural, but everyone goes to deep sleep naturally, as long as it's not forced or medicated, or you're too restless to have it or something. And that's a very unfortunate position to be in. But everyone has a sort of relationship with deep sleep all the time and comes back into dream and waking. And these are actually called the 3 worlds: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, or AUM of Om, the word. So you can see why we talk about mantra and we talk about words. if anyone ever came up to someone like us, Vedantists, mystics, followers of Om, and said, "What's in a word?" we would just have to start laughing. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Everything is in a word. Everything is in all words. And that everything has a source, and that's Mother, the mother of all wisdom. Call her Saraswati if you want, sitting on a lotus inside your own heart. And depict her any way you want, but when you're seeing her in dreams, she's a form, and when you go into deep sleep, she's a divine energy. We talked about this just in our meetings all the time, the power of Divine Mother, and how to follow her. So, all of this by way of explanation of the mystics that follow the path of sound, divine sound, Shabda Brahman. Shabda Brahman. Holy Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's divine consort and my Guru's Guru, used to speak about Shabda Brahman. The path of Nada Brahman has also been brought out by some of the teachers of India and brought forth into America. Nada Brahman. You've got words like the pranava in the Upanishads. Meditate on the pranava, that means Om. And you'll find that word centered in your heart, and the heart chakra is called Anahata, and that's another word for the path of God to sound. Anahata, the heart chakra, where you'll hear that Om humming like a billion bumblebees in a huge log. So closer you get to that, opening that heart chakra, which is love and wisdom combined, and then the closer you get to this divine word, which is the source of origins. Now, when Jesus explained it to John, he said, in the beginning was the Word, but the Word was with God, and then the Word was God, evidently, and obviously that's three different things. So there's a time when the Word is, as far as you're concerned, separate from Brahman. And when it's separate from Brahman, it can be the matrix to produce worlds. Mother Power will use it. Divine Shakti will use that Om as a huge garden of potential. Even the Christian scriptures begin that way. The Lord breathed upon the waters. Almighty Father breathed upon the waters. Well, that waters is Om. That's the word. And it took some divine breath to start it creating waves, right? And those waves will be the original seeds to everything. And then they'll break into more waves. And eventually all of that will come pouring out as the heavens and the earths. And so all of that is in a word and more. So that's why the seers then have studied not just the waking state, but they've studied the dream state. And then when they went beyond the dream state, they got very interested in deep sleep. What happened to my ego? You might as well say, who am I? Who am I cannot be answered very easily here on earth. You'd have to say, who am I not? Here, because here you're seeing all the final manifestations of the word. This is all the word, all your own knowledge turned into solid objects. So obviously you're not going to find God there. You're not going to find the word humming there. Although if you're a scientist and you take apart an object, you'll see a bunch of vibrating particles and lose track of the physical, lose track of matter. Pretty soon you'll understand that even objects are unreal because they're vibrating particles changing at a billionth of a second, and your senses are just not tuned to be able to understand that. You could only understand that when you tuned the senses out. See? Because when the senses are gone, you've got your subtle senses in dream tonight. And when those are gone, you've got your deep sleep state, which is one big third eye. Or one big divine ear. See? So you're going from 5 outer senses to 5 inner senses to one sense, basically. A divine eye, third eye. Jnana Chakshu, Krishna called it. The white dove ascending. There are many names for that third eye in 7 different religious traditions. Or that divine sound. So basically, if you're a mystic, you're really interested in the sound of the word, and you can hear it in meditation, or sometimes it can break in on you and blot out other sounds even when you're in the waking state. If you're more visionary oriented, you might think more in terms of light. See? So there's light and there's sound. And those jyoti and shabda, you could use as words for that. Either one of these ways is a good way to realize the self within you, or to merge the apparent self with the real self. Jiva with Shiva, or Atman with Paramatman. So, in so many ways, as my usual introduction to the subject, which is very deep and has to be contemplated, Sadakya is probably one of the most thorough, the 6 ways of getting this knowledge. Brahmagyan is knowledge of Brahman. So it's one of the more thorough systems that I would say was probably a combination of the thinkers of thousands of years of Vedic thought and thousands of years of Tantric thought, and how they concurred with each other and how they contributed over time, so that even all the way up to Jesus' time there was buzz about the word. And Buddha 550 years before Jesus, and the father of yoga a couple hundred years after Jesus, they were still all humming, pun intended, about the word. They were all buzzing about this divine word, and how it's been an eternal path that people have gotten out of the body and beyond earth and heaven by means of this word. So much so that they say if you don't have a mantra, which is part of the essential part of this system, then you could just take Om and start reciting it. And if you had some memory of divinity in you, if you hadn't been cheated of that by somebody talking you out of your own divine wisdom, or calling you a sinner, or whatever it is they're putting over you, then you could immediately have experiences inside of yourself that were freeing. And you can start making sense out of your life, your waking state. Because they want to master your waking state and connect it to dreaming, and then master those two together and connect it to waking, to deep sleep. So pretty soon you have AUM connected, and if you have that, you can get in and out of the body consciously. It sounds like what seers from Sri Krishna all the way up to Dalai Lama in present day time have been doing for many lifetimes, is getting in and out of the body without fear of death, in fact knowing death to be an illusion, and knowing eternal life, what that really means. And also knowing that the vibrations coming off the word Om that turn into thought particles eventually turn into objects. And if you make those connections, then it's not easy to, as I chanted at the beginning of this class, all the tattvas then become useful, because you see she is using them to get from level to level of consciousness, from causal to subtle to gross. And she's the thinking power and the seers who are moving through these tattvas. If that isn't there, the tattvas are as useful as clouds without rain. So the tattvas, or what we see listed here, you see, we could start off with that to segue into this chart.
Can you move your microphone a little closer?
Okay, I have a request to move this closer. All right.
Up a little higher.
And a little higher. All right. That means what I'm saying must be important. So, yeah. So yes, it is. All the tattvas would be as important as clouds with rain, if you want to put it obversely. And so otherwise you hear about a meaningless life. You have people complaining, there's no meaning to my life, why was I born, I don't have any purpose. On and on, these really negative mantras that are taking away the divinity that is really your divine heritage, your own divinity. You're covering over with, like Swamiji said, piling more gloom on gloom. See? This thirst for that kind of life forever quench, he says, because it drags from birth to death and death to birth of souls. So you never know about eternal life, you just know about one lifetime where you're dragged from birth, and you don't know why you were born or how you were born, except physically later. And it drags you to your death, and you don't know why you're dying and where you're going at the time of death, and this becomes a meaningless round. Yet those beings are also moving through the tattvas. Tattvas are one of the important parts of this Sadakya. There you see it. Kala are really aspects of time. Up here, you see. And tattvas are categories. The ancient Samkhya Yoga would tell you about the 24 categories, starting with God's mind all the way down to the element earth. We studied that at the retreat last week. Bhuvanas are realms or regions. Varna, letters of many alphabets, for instance, many different languages, all have power in those words. And certain people who know those languages should be able to get power out of them, power of intelligence, but they're not. They're just getting power of the physical tattvas out of them, and they don't know about the subtle tattvas and then the causal tattvas. So Varna, letters, then Pada, words, and then mantra, divine utterances. These are the 6 ways in which the Sadakya system wants to reconnect you with the word. And all the way back so that you will know in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God as its matrix. Then all of a sudden the word was God. So you took everything back to the word, and then you found the word inside of yourself, and you merged that self into the great self. This is how Vedanta and yoga describes it. So this goes all the way back to the kingdoms of heaven are within you, or all knowledge lies within you, things that both everyone from Krishna to Jesus to Patanjali, the father of yoga, have been telling you about in their systems, whether they be early Christianity, or whether it be yoga, or whether it be Buddhism. They've been telling you about these systems in their own languages, and these languages are important. I mean, by the time Buddha was there, Sanskrit was already beginning to become a forgotten language for the most part, and they had to use a Pali language to explain these same things. So you can see even by as recent as Lord Buddha, which is 2,500 years ago, languages were extremely important, and you had to be able to put great thoughts like this into certain words and utterances so that you could describe the origin of worlds, so that you could explain how they're born in time and who presides over them. Basically, that's a kind of nutshell of 6 different things. So there they are, aspects of time, categories that come about, regions that are formed by these letters and words, and then the divine utterances that hold the mystic power of Divine Mother in them. Let's read the quote here from the Tantras. With self-purification achieved, liberation proceeds via extracting the essence of the scriptures and gaining an intellectual conviction, leading to mature spiritual discrimination. That's a long sentence, but it's about as simply as you can put something as vast and important as this. And so you need to go through self-purification. That's the 3rd word in our class title today, right? We'll look at that. Systems of purifying yourself. We'll be able to look at that. And liberation precedes extracting the essence from the scriptures. So words, slokas, sutras, mantras, whatever the case may be, you need to take these and hear them first, shruti, then roll them over in your mind, yukti, and then realize what they mean. And in the West, our intellectualism is admired by the rest of the world, but not by India, because beyond intellectual frame of reference is the spiritual frame of reference. That's where the origin of all of this comes from. They know that we're just looking at things on the outside, that our understanding of words in books has only to do with the sound of a certain word, connecting that to a memory or some knowledge as to what it means to the outer object alone. but it doesn't tell you where the outer object came from, where matter itself came from. So you have to have a Big Bang theory or something like that come along. But what caused that Big Bang? So everyone's always, in India, they're always looking for the cause of that effect. And they find out that that effect becomes the cause of another effect. And so you pull it back inside of yourself like that. It's basically what you're doing here when you look at the Sadhakya system, is you're looking deeper and deeper for the essences, and don't forget who that essence is. The Divine Mother of the Universe, the Mother of Wisdom, Saraswati, if you want to call her that, divine Vedic goddess that is Umavati, they called her. The first time she was ever mentioned was in the Kena Upanishad as Umavati, the Mother of the Snow Mountains, the Wisdom Mother of the Snow Mountains, when she was born in a form. So, to go on with this quote, lifeless mechanical rites and rituals do not work. If rubbing the body with ashes could bring liberation, then village dogs could have it. So Tantra is taking to task hundreds and thousands of years of rites and rituals which they themselves passed through. And they found out that it wasn't getting them to the essence. There are beautiful songs in India like, mother cannot be bribed by sacrificing goats and elephants and, doing pujas and homa ceremonies and all this. This was all some sort of preparation to purify your mind and senses, so those things could become tattvas that you could see deeper with, like into your dream state. Otherwise, dream just becomes a figment of your imagination and something for the psychologist to play with. But in yoga psychology, this is another realm you're talking about. This is another bhuvana. If you divide the bhuvanas up into 7, you've got Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, and Mahar, and Jana, and Taparloka, and Sachiloka, the 7 great worlds. That's right here. You see, yes, right here, Brahmaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka. And then the 7 netherworlds that are their mirrors, hell realms, you might say. So these great 14 spheres are a part and parcel of this bhuvana. So if you have a word like bhuvana, you see how it can suggest 14 things to you, just by that one word alone. Or if you have a word tattva, it can suggest 24 things to you. What are the 24? See, unmanifested prakriti, God's mind, the ego, intelligence, mind, 5 subtle senses, 5 gross senses, 5 gross elements. And you might as well start tossing in 5 subtle senses and the 5 pranas with it. And then trace it all back up into Om. See? So just the word bhuvana will settle that for you. So if you have knowledge of these one words and how much can come out of a word, then you're not going to stand in front of a Vedantist or a Tantrist and say, well, what's in a word? See? Or what's in a name? Because in a name is where all the gods are. They took names, and you don't want to piss them off. You want them to be on your side. You need friends in high places. And high places mean that these deities, or these gods and goddesses, or these suras and asuras, are in the tattvas and in the bhuvanas. They move through them as mother consciousness. And so if they're aware of mother, they can move deep. If they're not so aware of mother, they can only move so deep. So in a world like this, who does not know the Divine Mother, then how deep can they go? About this deep, Krishna says, going around and around in circle and born in restless wombs. It's the exact description he has for souls who cannot understand the deep meaning of something like this. So, in another way of saying, you have no excuses. You have no reason why you should not look into a system this ancient, this powerful, that has illumined millions of souls by its very existence, just because in the Kali Yuga it's been forgotten. and you happen to be born in a Western country that was fixated on matter, and you don't know anything about where matter comes from. A Big Bang is about all you can see, or God created it. But in our tradition, God's not a creator. These gods and goddesses and these principles are the creator, and it creates in droves. See, the word is that powerful, it's that potent to produce all of this, and this is just a mere mention of everything that's in all the worlds, right? Well, let's look at the tattvas, for instance. If we go to, well, maybe we should take it in some sort of order. We said what kala is, basically phases of time. So kala means manifestation is in the nature of reality. This is from the Tantras. Manifestation is in the nature of reality. Kala, in its 5 main forms, presides over all cosmic principles, pure, mixed, and impure. It simultaneously assists the unmanifest to transition into the manifest and acts as a guide for all seekers of self-realization. So there has to be some sort of matrix that gets things from formlessness into form. And it's true both of souls and nature. Souls need to somehow have a helper to get them into the form, and then into other forms, to eventually be born on earth. There's a power behind that. Nature is the same way. It's insentient. It's not like the soul, which is sentient, but it's insentient, but it has a matrix that produces from words, from utterances, from vibrations, from the word Om, and produces these tattvas that the soul can play in. You've heard of playing in the fields of the Lord, or the mind field in yoga, or lila in tantra, the divine sport of beings. They're conscious beings who know this process and who use it to sport, not just to suffer, not just to cheat themselves of experience because they're attached to the 5 elements that are in an object, or to possess objects when they can't be possessed. Or you could put it, possess objects which are already yours, because all of this is your own process. If you lose something, produce it again. Why get attached to one form of it? So whatever the case may be, there is a matrix that helps get the unmanifest into manifest, and that's these 5 kalas. Let's go on with this. As possessor of Shakti, at its highest level, Kala is the supreme Shakti, the prime mover. So here she is, you see. If you want to try and assign her some sort of original form, Kala, does it sound familiar? Kali? Or even in Tibetan Buddhism, Kala? Or even in Shaivism, Kala is a name for Lord Shiva and Divine Mother. So there they are, see. So she's the prime mover, at the same time absorbed in reality and capable of being differentiated from it, but at the same time she's partially and independent by her own will. So this has also been described by the seers. That's why Holy Mother said once, you're my children. Nothing can hurt you. God can't even hurt you. So she's independent divine will. God, what can God do? It's just this formless mass of awareness. It can't do anything without something that can get it from formlessness into form, right? We just said that. So there's a power that moves things from formlessness into form. That's her. If you were to be able to see her at that very subtlemost level, before the seeds, before the gunas went into lack of equilibration, and before subtle worlds and everything started to form, you would see her like a flash on her sword. The seers want to be there when she cuts. She'll cut away everything that's in her way, and she'll place there a plethora of wonderful things. See. So that's a very powerful sloka, you see, or mantra, or sutra that you need to think about. Oh, I'm thinking about Divine Mother at a very high level, maybe the highest level that the mind can think at when you take a sloka like that and contemplate it, and that's what you need to do. It's not going to be understood just by one reading. And you're going to have to put your sadhana, your purification techniques, your study of scriptures, and your devotion to her all in one form. See? What does it take to realize God? Remember Krishna said? It'd be like taking the miser's love for money, the mother's love for her child, and 2 or 3 other things, and put them all together in one intense love. So that's the kind of yearning and love you have to have for her in order to bring her out of hiding. Because she's hidden in everything. And look how deftly she covers things, hypnotizes souls. And they're so willing to go to that hypnotization, you see, that some want to rip those veils off, you see. Tantra has described Maya as leading you with one hand and covering your eyes with the other, you see. That's the mudra for Maya right there. But here's a mudra for the spiritually awakened soul. See? I want to see where you're taking me. See? So Sadhaki would be a way of seeing where she's taking you. Outward and inward. Evolution and involution. Let's look at the 5 kalas that were just mentioned in that quote. Nivritti kali, Pratista kala, Vidya kala, Shanta kala, and Shantyatita kala. Shantyatita kala. So Nivritti is Brahma. Lord Brahma presides in that level of tattva. Kala. Pratista, Vishnu presides. Basically, Vishnu always is there sustaining things, isn't he? He likes the sustaining power. Brahma likes the giving rise power. And Vishnu likes the let's stay the same power. And Shiva comes along and says, I like the destructive power. Wipe it out. Return it back to formlessness. Well, doesn't this sound like the Trinity? And doesn't this also sound like something that would take you from formlessness into form and then back into formlessness? Isn't it? Doesn't it also sound like waking, dreaming, and deep sleep tonight for you? When Lord Brahma has created all this, and Lord Vishnu is sustaining it in dream, and Lord Shiva is taking it away in deep sleep, and then Lord Vishnu is giving it back to you, and then Lord Brahma is back to the origin of all things, and here you are back in the waking state, AUM. You've made the complete cycle, but you haven't put anything together of what happened to you, or who's doing it. So Divine Mother is the purveyor of all of these 5 powers of hers, these 5 kalas. So look at the next one, Vidya, that's Rudra, and you know who Rudra is, another name for Shiva. Shanta kala is Maheshvara providing, and Shantyatita is Sadashiva providing. That's a very special aspect of Shiva. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on the Trinity and the gods at a very high level like this. Let's move on to Tattva. So the definition for Tattva there, remember we're in Sadhakya now, and we've just talked about the first aspect of these 6 ways of getting you to Brahmagyan. And now we're going to talk about the second, which is Tattva. Beginning with the elements and proceeding to Shiva and Shakti, consciousness as experience is made up of worlds, bhuvanas, which are the planes of existence consisting of tattvas. So we haven't taken you to bhuvanas yet, but that's why I mentioned it to you, these 14 worlds, right? So these tattvas, these bhuvanas consist of these tattvas. So if you've studied your Samkhya yoga, you know most of this. But in this system of Tantra, they're describing to you a very high level of tattva that has to do with Ishvara and Sadashiva and so forth, this 5th kala. So what are they? Physical tattvas, Everyone close their eyes and just start reciting them. Earth, air, fire, water, ether. Odor, flavor, visibility, tangibility, and audibility. Excretion, procreating, locomotion, handling, speaking, smelling, tasting, seeing, feeling, and hearing. So there's 3 sets of 5s for you right there that are the physical tattvas. As far as this system is going, yes, it is covering some of the subtle worlds, your dream state in a bit, but it's not like these can be nicely put into airtight compartments. There's going to be some overlap. So if you go from the physical to the psychic level of your being, which would be more like dream tonight, these objects become subtle objects. But they're the same objects that were here. See, people don't usually dream about things that aren't on Earth. They just take the same things that were on Earth and they dream about them in subtle form. So that proves to you that the subtle is the father of the gross, you see. And we're not thinking that way. We're thinking that the gross is it. That is, 5 elements are it. And then dream is just some fantasy of our imagination that came because we had some experiences with the physical objects. But the truth of it is, we had dream first and produced the physical objects from it. And so this is going to be a revelation to people in the West who are caught between a rock and a hard place of 4,320,000,000-year-old evolution theory and the 7-day creation theory, when creation is just 1/5 of what's going on here. So those physical tattvas, you just pretty much, that's your waking state and what you're involved in. But when you go into dreaming state, you're taking them with you, and what you're seeing is the source of what you experienced in the waking state. You have to turn around like that. You have to turn Maya on its ear and ask Mother, will you show me what this waking state's about? What the 5 elements really are? Is water just to quench my thirst or drown me, or is there some source to it, some essence to it? You have to really inquire about this and actually meditate on those things. That's what the father of yoga did in 140 AD when he saw systems like Kapila Samkhya Yoga and systems like Sadakya. He said, well, let's take these and make them alambanas. Let's meditate on them, because we need to remember. It's been too long since we remembered the steps that take us back home. See? So you're going to have to leave the body and leave the senses and leave objects and all that and just abandon them. Sometimes that's called renunciation. Other times it's called detachment. Other times it's called, death, you see. So you want to do this consciously in your meditation while you're living in the body, so you can memorize all the steps that lead you back to the kingdoms of heaven and beyond the kingdoms of heaven. Because this goes beyond the kingdoms of heaven. Deep sleep is beyond the kingdoms of heaven because it's formless. And you're still there in a formless state. You're still witnessing formlessness. Oh, I'm formless now, so who's saying that? You see. Or you can even do it, if you're not a realized soul, you can even wake up in the waking state and said, I had deep sleep last night. You see, what is that memory? I had deep sleep. It means you remembered that there was a witness who experienced deep sleep. You just don't know quite how it felt back here in the body. So it's a direct pointer to the fact that you have a deep sleep state, and you were witness to it there. The same is true about death. How do we know rebirth is real? Because we've seen it so many times. That is, our true self did not die when our body died. It watched the body die, and it watched it take parents, and it watched it be born again, and it watched it grow again, watched it die again. And all this time it wasn't getting a clue that there's a watcher that doesn't change, that there's a witness of all phenomena, sakshibhutam. If you had that word in Sanskrit, you'd be in samadhi in a thrice. Even if you heard it in English, witness consciousness. That's interesting. See? I'm really impressed down here, I can tell you. I just had a great thought. So, then there's the psychical tattvas. Sorry for the word, I couldn't think of anything that would fit so easily. Mind, thought, intelligence, ego. Soul, Purusha. Cosmic laws, Niyati. Time phases, Kalas. Time, Kala. Higher knowledge, Vidya. Subtle matter, Karyamaya. And attraction, Raga. What is it that attracts souls to the body? What is it that attracts the baby to the mother? What is it that attracts the husband to the wife and the wife to the husband? What is it that attracts the particles in the atom to congeal around a center? What is this? It's raga. You want to replace it with the word love, I know. See? But it's the power of attraction that exists at a very high level in the psyche. It's a law there. You see those niyati there is cosmic laws. So some thinkers went beyond the physical tattvas and they said, what's congealing everything? And how long does it take for this to happen? And what are those phases of time called? And who presides over them? See? So, what to speak of you being a witness of the whole thing, there are other witnesses there who walk the skies, as Lord Vashishta used to say. And you want to get in cahoots with them. See, you want to see who they are. You want to gather your powers together. You want to have friends in high places so that your third eye will be open completely. Because if this chakra is opened, you can go inward further. If it's not, you tend to go outward. So, seekers of the highest wisdom, they seek Shakti. Why? Because she's moving up the chakras. Why? Because she wants to meet with Lord Shiva at the crown of the head. That is her lover. See, Shiva and Shakti are always one, like fire in its heat, Sri Ramakrishna said. So the tendency is to unite. And so you want to get with Mother so that you can unite with Paramashiva, your highest essence. She'll take you right there. She's the fail-safe method of getting realization. Without Kundalini Shakti's awakening, there can be no spiritual advancement, said Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And if Kundalini is the presiding power of all these tattvas, all these kalas, and kala is also a phase of time. You see, there's the kalas and there's kalas, time and its phases. Then there are things you don't know about yourself, about your inner self, where you go and dream and where you go in deep sleep, that will be connecting like linchpins that you can grab onto another level of your own consciousness and free it. You can find out what's binding you, see, and free it. The power of the mantra, say. If you have Mother Mantra, that's when you'd want to use it. Have any of you ever woke up from dream with the mantra? I have. Or even woke up of a very high state, just with the mantra on your lips. Or even while you were in the high state saying, I don't want to be here. Oh, yes, there's my mantra. Say it, poof. You're back comfy in your body again. As comfy as you can get there. Let's look at this spiritual tattvas. Those are very interesting. There's inner guidance. Oh, guess what the word for that is? Sadakya. Isn't that what we're studying? So Sadakya is the inner guide that gets you back into Brahmagyan, which is knowledge of the highest reality, supreme principle. Then there is spiritual wisdom. Bindu. Bindu means this third eye, doesn't it? See, talk about that, and that's where Om splits apart. See, I think I have brought that chart here. We can look at it maybe later in the second half about Tantra's Shrishti Rahasya, it's called. And you can see Bindu there and how it splits in half. Bindu bursts, you see, and then begins to produce these other principles as it trickles down. So there's Bindu then. Then there's, and that's spiritual wisdom. That's Mother Wisdom, you see. She'll coax that out of Lord Shiva, who's wisdom essence. She'll want to make it manifest. And then you have non-duality, Shuddha Vidya. There's a higher wisdom. It's the essence of non-duality. Nishvalaha Sharda Bravat, we just chanted it at the beginning of class. So she is the essence of non-duality, the highest essence of non-duality. That's her. And then there's primal sound, nada, which we mentioned earlier. That's also in this chart. And then there's the supreme deity, Ishvara. We know about Ishvara because our mantra is usually connected with Ishvara. If it's a very powerful mantra, it's connected to either Mother or one of these great beings, Vishnu or Krishna or Rudra or Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya, and so forth. You have a mantra that's got a bijam in it, and it's got the divine name too. The bijam is the seed. You release that seed, there's power in it, and then that power allows you to have communion or darshan with your chosen ideal, Ishvara. So that's why you keep meditating and concentrating and going deeper and deeper. All of this would help you go deeper and deeper. Otherwise the mantra could just be like a parrot repeating something. And you could go on doing that for 10 years or 20 years. But you get her wisdom involved. Sadakya, get a guide. Vidya, get inner wisdom. Bindu, and then get spiritual wisdom and so forth. So these are some tattvas. Now that you've had last weekend's retreat on the 24 cosmic principles, or tattvas of Kapila, you can start thinking in terms of a roof on that set of 4 walls. Other thinkers came along and used Kapila's system to put a roof on that, and those were very powerful elements they used to build that roof. It's like the very height of your own consciousness before you lose track of form. So Ishvara would be that subtle, most beautiful form that you're contemplating that's almost not in form. That's why it would fade in and out of your consciousness when you're trying to meditate. You bring it back in. Oh, I'm attached to form. Okay, I'll show you a little bit of my form. See? And now I'm taking it away. Oh, I can't see you anymore, Lord. It's because I'm formless. Get used to it. Deal with it. Have some formless experience. The bhuvanas we pretty much looked at already. 224 realms lie within 15 universes, 7 and higher and 7 lower, ranging gross to subtle. Some correspond with the 5 elements, others to subtler worlds, which exist beyond the physical plane, located in those spiritual vortexes called chakras. Essentially, all realms of existence lie within. That's a beautiful statement there. It's so explanatory, and even the last sentence there, all realms of existence lie within. So that would have to mean this realm too. You're looking at it as if it's an external realm, but it's not. It's in your mind. And you'll dream it away tonight. It'll lose its outer existence. That's why you renounce it. That's why you give it up. That's why it's not real. That's why it's shifting sand. That's why it's Maya. That's why it's samsara. You think they're just spouting out words and systems so that you can just play with it some more? Or do they want you to give it up because it's not real? You can't build your house on shifting sand. Take your pick, God or Mammon. Take your pick, the wheat or the chaff. So this world, if you were to see it in its reality, is really an inner world. The way we used to talk about that in SRV with Lex Sixon, our founder, is he would used to say, you're living in your mind right here. This is your mind made manifest. So everything here looks like it's outer, but it's really, if you could see it, the object, you could see it's just vibrating particles, which are suggesting deep sleep, aren't they? Because when you go into deep sleep, these things dissolve. You don't see them anymore. And it certainly happens when you go to death. And it happens in a very grand way when you go into samadhi. So really there are 4 ways in which you can go into formlessness. and some more conscious than others. Some forced upon you like death. But deep sleep is certainly one of the easiest ways to get into formlessness. But what is it telling you that I lost my ego? What is it telling me that I lost objects? What is it telling me I lost my bank account? What is it telling me I lost my children? What is that telling me? Is it just a lesson of impermanence? That's part of it. Especially if you're attached to it, you see. It's a matter of impermanence or detachment or tyaga, renunciation. But if you wanted to go deeper with it, you could say that this world is really inside of me. Even this world is inside of me. I'm going on too long about this, but it's not something that is a common thought to people. They think of inner worlds. See, now they're making a decision, aren't they, between outer and inner. But what do the Upanishads tell you? What does Shankara tell you? Join the outer with the inner into one indivisible state, then meditate on that state, pass your time contentedly, and be free. So if you're still holding a distinction that this is an outer world and then there's an inner world, or that the Atman is not here and it's only inside me, then you're still caught in a realm of duality, in some sort of dream of separation. So the teaching of bhuvanas, powerful. See, each one of these is another element that connects with the previous and leads to the next, and will give you mother wisdom. All you need to do is take the time to listen, contemplate it, make sure you have devotion to her intact, that you're seeking her for the right reasons, and then realize it. Om Shatagunam Vidyan Mananam Mananadapi Nidijasam Lakshagunam Anantam Nirvikalpakam. How do you get into Nirvikalpa Samadhi? By hearing about Brahman, then by taking teachings on Brahman, and then by meditating on Brahman. From good to better to best. That's how Swami Vivekananda would put that. Good to better to best. And so you'll take the dreaming and melt it into the dream, take the waking state and melt it into the dreaming. Then you'll take those two and melt them into deep sleep. And then deep sleep will all go into Turiya. Or you'll take the Annamaya Kosha, physical body, and you'll dissolve that into the Pranamaya Kosha, which is energy. You'll take those two and dissolve them into the Manomaya Kosha. In other words, all of this is in the first two koshas. You're dissolving it into this kosha, tattva-wise. Then you'll take those three and you'll dissolve it into Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is beginning to bridge on this. Vijnana is the highest wisdom. Then you'll take those four sheaths and dissolve it into Anandamaya Kosha, which is a kosha of bliss. And there your ego goes, oh, you found me, I give up. So you like tore the hiding place off the ego. It's like cowering there in the sun. Like, oh, you found my secret, you rascal. And then ego dies in the light of understanding. So however you put it, in terms of the 5 sheaths, or the 3 worlds, or the mantras of Om, or the 6 ways of getting Brahmajnana, it really amounts to the same thing. It's an involutionary process that people are not taking. They get into the fields of the Lord, consider this world to be the only real world, leave it outside of themselves, and play in it, and then suffering happens to them, and death takes them by surprise. And then they find themselves right back here again. Doesn't matter whether they died of natural causes or committed suicide. They find themselves back here either way. But you would find yourself back here in that case if you were an ignorant person. So you're finding yourself back here, but the seers are finding themselves. Your self is transmigrating. Their self is staying stationary. You're identifying with the transmigrating self, so you're finding yourself back here again and again. But they're finding the self, with a capital S, and remaining stationary, like Shiva does. Varna, the garland of letters, is the 4th element of Sadakya. Varnamala is the science of alphabets, which is an expression of the Mahashakti, the essence of indivisible truth which reveals the mystery of creation, called Shrishti Rahasya. You'll look at that. The mystery of creation, Shrishti Rahasya, vibrates via particles of intelligence, called chit matras. We don't have anything like that taught to us. We don't have any words for it. Chit matras, you see, vibrating particles of your own intelligence, form words, and they give rise to words, and words have meaning. We'll get to that. It includes three main elements: matrikas, alphabets, or you could say letters; shabda, word, and artha, meaning. So this is the way Tantra thinks. It thinks in terms of an object before it got turned into an object, being a thought in your mind, and before that its elements were unmanifested. See, so somehow you got a hold of that seed that was rent asunder, and you pulled out of the deep sleep state thought of object. Then you pulled out of it form. Well, I'm going to give it a form. Then you pulled out of that, what's the word for it? Now you've got all those things. Now you pull out, there has to be a meaning for the word. And all of a sudden now I have a couch, see, or a forest. So that's how many elements there are inside of the power of your mind to produce things. Sankalpa, they call it, and so forth. But there was a time, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. There was a time when the Word was with God, when you were not seeing them as one. So since the Word was separate from God, you out of that cosmic God's mind or unmanifested Prakriti, you took the seeds and you started fashioning them into thoughts with words, with meanings, with names, with forms. You took all those things and gelled them together, and then you took them into your dream state. What a nice world. Then you took them further out into the waking state. Oh, maybe that's not such a nice world. No. Depends on, how desire-free you are in the process, how adept you are at fashioning and destroying, how non-attached you are in the midst of the process. So, devoid of Matrika Shakti, consciousness could not reveal itself. Worlds, beings, objects, even Ishvara, all evolved from Matrika. So, these garland of letters, you could say, look at Mother Kali with her garland of skulls. Or you could look at a graph of the 7 chakras and see how each chakra has different petals, and in each petal there's different letters, and each letter has a different color associated with it, and a different world associated with it. You see, this is all her manifesting herself. And this is how she does it. The Tantrikas spent ages thinking about this and putting it together. Then the souls went in to death, see, came back out, and started memorizing this movement they did from dreaming to deep sleep to waking. Only after giving up cutting the silver cord to their body, then they created another body, because if you're attached to the silver cord of your body, which is the spine, as it were, then you cannot get very far out of the body without being pulled back. You know how they describe it, the Tantric thinkers describe that? There's a calf, and there's a stake in the middle of the ground, and there's a rope tied to that, and it's tied to its neck, and it can only go around that stake to the length that the rope will let it. See? So that's the silver cord, your spine, and it's tying you to a stake in the ground, and you can only go so far out of it. So people can't go very far out of it, say into dream, and they don't believe in their dream, they come back to waking. Or some people can go beyond dream into deep sleep, and then they rest there, and then that silver cord pulls them back into the body. See? So at the time of death, that gets split. It gets cut. Silver thread. They've got different names for it. And then you can get outside of the... It's like a calf that broke its tether, and it's just off into the pastures, you see. It's free. So what to say? Some calves prefer to be bound. Some calves will go around and around until the tether gets shorter and shorter. See? And they only know about the waking state. See? Trying to step one step away. Like, whoa. You see, yank, yank. Ah! Help! You see? Someone unwrap me. And then some guru comes along and shows them a little bit of their consciousness. It's how to get free, you see, how to get free again. Or maybe you'll have some great illumined soul come and teach you Sadakya and explain it to you. And then you have to take it in and activate it, initiate it. Play with your own consciousness. It's the adventure of consciousness. It's a nice name of a good book out there, The Adventure of Consciousness. You have to have Vividisha. A nice Swami up in Seattle, that Swami Vivedishananda, see, said Vivedisha means an intense interest in things spiritual. Is there one word in English for that? No, there's not even belief in things spiritual. So how can there be a word for it? In fact, you say spirituality and they think about seances and crystal balls and tarot cards and peacock feather bopping and psychic readings and stuff. That to them is spiritual, you see. That's what Vivekananda found here when he came in 1893. Big tent revivals and seances. He said, boy, these people are in the dark ages spiritually. They're mere babies. Let's give them something like this. Let them teethe on that for a while. So how deep it goes, you see. And we've exhausted the first half now, just talking about 4 of these elements. I knew it would take one half at least to get through this. Even if you don't understand it and you have to go back and look at it again and review this YouTube video and come to retreat or find a tantric adept, you know, you should entertain this again and again and again until it begins to cause you to remember these connections as realities in you. Right now it seems like a little bit of alien knowledge or something that's coming out of nowhere and it's too much and all that. But over time you'll think about this and you'll become a great soul who realizes that this is the path back to divine reality. This is your source, and she's the one that will lead you there. And she may lead you there through him, through different hymns, you see, different male aspects. I suppose we've run out of time for the first half. We have a few minutes, so let's look at pada. And these last 2 are easier to understand, but you can see how they're connecting. Pada means the construction and meaning of whole words springing from matrika is what is called pada. So matrika, really, if you want just a basic assignment, those are the letters. But remember, matrika is also suspiciously like the word mother, mata, or matri. So even the word matrika means letters of words. When you say it, you think, well, that sounds like mother, you see. So you should be making these connections in sound. Sound is very important, right? And now we've learned that. And I've often said it before, but you're all listening to me in this room. I don't know how the live stream audience is falling asleep or whether they're galvanized or what's happening, but here in this room everyone's fully focused on these words. That's mother. You say, oh, I don't know Divine Mother. She's the power of your comprehension. She's the intelligence that's causing you to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, as they say. See? So that's her. Oh, she got by. See? You're busy understanding something, and oh, well, that was her. See? She made me understand that. But what do people do with that knowledge? They put their name on it. Their ego's name. You see? they have some great thought that she gives them. They'll put their ego stamp on that. See, I own that, I know that, it's my knowledge, and that ruins the whole process, and she flees. She'll never give you another bit of wisdom again. Vouchsafe that to you, so you can put your name on it and own it. Name some constellation in the stars after yourself, or some theorem. See? That's mother wisdom. Sri Ramakrishna left school at a very early age because they saw they were using mother wisdom for all the wrong reasons. He said, no, I won't use her wisdom like that. I'll find her. So that's why she's in every word. I mean, sometimes we sing that, right? Jato shono karna pute shabe mayar mantra bote. Jato shono karna pute shabe mayar mantra bote. Kali pancha shata varna moyi varne varne namadore. Kali pancha shata varna moyi varne varne namadori. What did I just say? Varna? What else did I just say? Shabda, Kala. So, he sings, all sounds you hear are her natural mantras, repeating spontaneously as the whole world worships her. Goddess Kali constitutes the letters of every alphabet, matrika, and each letter secretly bears the flower of her name. Each letter bears the flower of her name. That sound of the word, that meaning that connects to it, and the word itself, and the thought from which the word came, all back up there in yourself as seeds somewhere. And you brought them together, and you fashioned them into worlds. And then you forgot her, and after that you forgot yourself, that you did it. How forgetful you are, O mind. So he sings, Monopoli Bhajakali Icha Hoi Torjaya Chari Guru Data Mahamantra Divanishi Japa Kori Monopoli Bhajakali. And that low string, that low F, see, also has a sound. And the word string has a sound embedded in it, you see. And that sound is her. And the inspiration you're getting from that sound put together with other notes is also her. This is also the science of music. The mystics, the musicians, the artists, they take Saraswati as their chosen ideal, and they meditate upon her, and they realize great things through sound. Finally, mantra, let's read it and close for the first half. The science of cosmic sound, mantra, is direct knowledge. Divine spontaneous action proceeds from it. What's that word? Divine spontaneous action. Kriya. So from this mantra galvanizes you, then you go out and do divine actions. See, without that, and all the tattvas are as useless as clouds with no rain, so all your actions are also as useless as that. They're just bringing you karma and suffering, or pleasure and attachment, or take your pick, you see. But what should be bringing you is divine life, because you know the sound in words. You know that's her. You know that she constitutes the letter of every alphabet, that she's in it all. How can you ever forget that again? And how can words not be important to you? Or how can you relegate them just to making money? Or just to intellectual, egotistic satisfaction? How can you do that? It's an insult to words. Then he makes the Tantras make a connection here. Tattvas, go back to tattvas, form the objective side of experience, while mantra forms the subjective side. You connect those, right? By practicing these two aspects, one attains spiritual ascendancy. Mantra then is special knowledge which, when contemplated, reveals the otherwise unseen truth that the universe is full of Brahman. All this is Brahman. So here, let's take our break for 15 minutes. Welcome back, Svagatam, and back into the internal mind. As we were saying before the break, that even this outer world is really in the mind. Everything's in the mind according to the mind-only schools. And that helps us, that one bit of information, get away from the physical world only belief and get into some of these inner realms of knowledge. Realms of knowledge, like we were saying here. These happens to be bhuvanas, made of tattvas, presided over by these great beings who live for endless time, in the kalas, and all living eternally in Divine Mother's wisdom. You can go either way with this. You kind of go, if you're going up from the tattvas or inwards to the tattvas, you're talking about these deities, and if you come outward, you're talking about right on down to seemingly little old words, but words that have great power. That's why we call Sanskrit Devabhashya, because it's the language of the gods, because a whole cross-section of Indian culture at one time got enlightened by systems such as this that consisted of words. And at that time, they knew about Divine Mother. We know somewhere along the way they also lost touch with Mother. Te dhyan yoga nugato pashyan devatma shaktim svagunayar nagudam. Why? Because she covered herself so deftly with svagunayar nagudam, the three gunas. She covered herself with nature and forms, which she can produce in abundance. But how did they react for that? They realized that their intellects had been covered, and then so they meditated beyond their intellect and found the Devatma Shakti. So that's Svetashvataro's Upanishad that says that, which is a fairly recent Upanishad, as all the Upanishads go. They call it one of the more current ones, a couple thousand years old maybe or less. So when you go back in time, you see that India has passed through phases of powerful souls being there and producing great systems, and then those systems passing through phases of time, and some of the wisdom getting obscured, some of the inner realms disappearing as if they didn't exist, and the outer realm becoming more obvious and evident to them, and going through phases of time like that. And that's pretty much what Krishna says about all dharmas and religions in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita. So one has to be ready for that worlds of changing phenomena, but if you'd be most ready for it if you knew where they came from and who is presiding over them and who is the ultimate component of them and the power in them, and if you avail yourself of that from lifetime to lifetime and ingrain it in you with sadhana, practice, then you have smriti rupena samstita. Mother exists as the power of memory inside of you, and that comes back to you in each lifetime. It doesn't take long for that to recur. The limitations of the body and brain will be such that you'll have to grow a little bit usually. But in Shankar's case, 5 or 6 years old, he was already recalling all of this wisdom that he had mastered in other lifetimes. So to see through Maya is no small thing, but there are souls whose sole penchant and goal is to penetrate through it as fast as they can. That's why they say they go and get initiation right away. Find the guru, get initiation right away, purify their body, and get on with the thread of their yoga, as Krishna says in the Gita. And follow that to consummate realization in each lifetime. Why should they do that when they're already perfected and realized? Because people are watching. It's the only way to get into the world and the body and enact it in front of them, so that these beings will get an idea, follow a great light, like Buddha, Jesus, and Shankar, and others. So we did look at this pretty thoroughly, I found out as I looked back on it, and I think there's a way of making it a little bit more hands-on by going to this chart about the three worlds. These mystic utterances, or vyahritis, are an interesting way of looking at this. And we talked about Svetashvatara Upanishad. Now let's take a quote from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Bhur Bhuva Svaha. These are verily the three celebrated mystical utterances. In addition to these, there is a fourth one, which Mahachamasya proclaimed, and that would be Maha, Bhur Bhuva Swaha, and Maha, or Mahar. The one who meditates upon these, called the four Vyahritis, comes to know Brahman. And to that auspicious one all the gods bring homage. So it would be like saying, I've found the three worlds, I knew what the top this consisted of, and then the gods and goddesses came to me and revealed themselves to me. In the Ramakrishna Upanishad, which is the newest Upanishad probably in existence, one of his devotees wrote it, gods and goddesses revealed themselves to him in multitudes. So he's having these kalas, these masters of time, and reveal themselves to him inside of this divine worlds that he's seeing. So that has something to do with the Gayatri mantra, and I'll show you a little bit about that to even cement this chart a little bit deeper into us, because we need to take this and meditate on it a while, but there are ways of connecting it to things we're more familiar with. In this case, look at the chart. You see here there are the three worlds, Bhur, and next to it the earth, fire, Rig Veda, and prana as breath is associated with Bhur, the first world. Then across the board, Bhuvaha, interregions, air, Samaveda, and Apanaha, the out-breath. So the in-breath, the out-breath, these are assignments to these worlds. Now remember, we're thinking about words, mystical utterances. So if the Gayatri is the mantra that's chanted by more people than any other words in the world, bar none, there are millions of people saying that multiple times a day, if not just once. So this Gayatri mantra is very profound, and its first three words are Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. I mean, if you were to sing that, it would sound in different ways. There are different Gayatris, but the main one we sing is Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitor Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimhi Dio Yona Prachodayat. Gayatri mantra is sung in different ways, in different tunes, and sometimes just chanted as one tone. But that's, may we always and ever meditate upon this divine being, the Gayatri, or almost another word for Saraswati again. The Divine Mother is Gayatri. And may she always reveal herself to us and protect us and protect the three worlds. So these three worlds are Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. If you look at Swaha, you would see that it's the third world inside. Stepping back in, you can see the correlation here. And it has to do with heaven, the sun, the Yajurveda, and Vyanaha. That is the arrested breath. So you've got the in-breath, and you've got the out-breath, and you've got the arrested breath. Then you've got three of the four Vedas. And then you've got fire, air, the sun, and you've got earth, interregion, and heaven, associated with these three bijams, these three seed words, these mystical utterances. Verily, through the sun all worlds, through the moon all lights, through Brahman all the Vedas, and through food all animate beings are magnified. So you can see how in the middle chant there, all of this is coming out. If you look at the lower part of the chart there, you see on these leaves and in the waters various tattvas that are mentioned over here, but they're put in a little bit different way here, aren't they? I mean, you can actually see how these things are have come into being as physical tattvas, but they've come from certain words. We have certain words for them, like breath, ether, senses, sun, mind, prana, body, stars, thought, moon, living beings, water, trees, herbs, flowers, ego, all some tattvas listed all over these leaves and in the waters and so forth. And you see the goddess sitting there playing Saraswati on her veena, presiding over all of these, and she would pronounce Bhur Bhuva Swaha, she would say these words, and all of these things would come forth from them. And so, if you just looked at this in the Taittiriya Upanishad, you'd maybe be left a lot to consider, or a little bit puzzled by it. But if you knew where they were coming from with it, the Sadakya and so forth, then you'd have ways of connecting these things together to make sense out of how one world came out of another, and how those two produced another, or how your causal body produced your subtle body, and then your subtle body produced your gross body, or how your spiritual tattvas produced your psychical tattvas produced the physical tattvas. And again, you'd have this way of mapping the soul's journey out and its return journey in. Sancharaha, prati sancharaha, the ancient seer said, Kapila. There's a chain of evolution out, and there's a reverse chain of evolutes in. That's what's left us in the lurch in our scientific westernized way of thinking, is that there's no way back in. In fact, within doesn't exist. Except maybe for the healers and the doctors in the body. But in the mind, that's just, how can you say that to people? Well, you'd have to start with their dreams. And it'd be better to start with their dreams than it would be with their psychical disturbances. So then you've got medicines, and you're talking about problematic seeds in the mind, which should not be watered. You water the flowers, not the weeds, in this tradition. And so you'll have to come to know what the flowers are and how to water them properly, and who's doing the watering and who to depend upon, like Divine Mother. So, I mean, all of this is in the word water, for instance. The whole universe is, all the bhuvanas are in the word stars, because if you get subtle worlds, they also have stars. And not just physical worlds have stars. You have many worlds, bhuvanas, inside of you. 224 realms, for instance, and 14 worlds, and so all of these things are a way of saying, in a cryptic way, the kings of heaven are within you. Or Jesus said, "My Father's mansion has many chambers." Doesn't this look like many chambers to you? All filled with manifestations of the mind, using the power of Divine Mother Wisdom. All comes out of wisdom particles. So you can see this bottom, this chart is an easy study, but it does give you a kind of hands-on way of looking at what this is saying. A little bit better way to connect with it, with your worlds that are more familiar to what you think, like these words and these seeds are a little bit more familiar with you. You can see how they would be seeds, come from powerful bijams. Bhur, Bhuvaswaha, and why millions of people chant this, because they're thinking of earth, nether realms, and heavens. And then the chant says, oh, Mahachamasya all of a sudden found a fourth world. So this was at a time when the seven worlds, which I've put up here as a compliment to you, Janaha, Tapaha, and Satyaloka, they were not seen yet. They had been covered by Mother's veiling power. So Mahachamasya meditated beyond Bhur, Bhuvaswaha and found Mahar Loka. And so these worlds get covered to consciousness, and great seers have to come upon them and with Mother power and propitiation uncover them and see a deeper world. So pretty soon if the teachers are teaching you about 7 worlds, and that wisdom does not get lost to you in your country, in your lifetime, in your century, in your millennia, whatever, then you will know that they exist, and then you can find them. Otherwise, it becomes so obscured that nothing ever exists to you. You know what country I'm talking about. There is nothing inner. It's all outer, and that's the only existence. And you are the body. And problems like that come from that way of thinking. And death is real. And your dream state is not. It's a figment of your imagination. And all Mother Wisdom just gets wiped away as if it never existed. And the poor soul is lost out there. Doesn't know where he is, where he came from, what his essence is, where he's going, who he is, and grabs onto the ego as a life raft. Like Shankar says, a man drowning grabs onto a crocodile thinking it's a log. That's the condition of people in that kind of situation. So, to put it together quickly, it's a fairly easy study, but let's read the last chant here, or from the Taittiriya Upanishad, this sloka. In meditation, the worshipper leaves the body through the subtle nadi, gains union and abides in fire by uttering bur, and in air by uttering bhuvaha, and in sun by uttering svaha, and finally in Brahman declaring maha. He reaches the lords of sight, hearing, speech, and understanding, and becomes the divine Brahman. Now, there's a connection for you. The Upanishad might give you some hands-on information, but it wants to connect you with the fact that you're going to be connecting with these kalas. And they're presiding over certain bhuvanas. And you're uttering certain varnas, padas, and matrikas in order to find them or to call their attention to you inside of your meditation. So, it's just returning to the source, really. It's an apparent movement. Soul never moves. It's already where it's going. It's all pervasive. It is the internal Brahman. The last chart, we looked at that. It says, the real secret of all of it is that the universe is just full of Brahman. Brahman is in everything. We know that from the great Vakyas, right? From the great Maha Vakyas. Maha, does it sound familiar? See? So in this rendering, as far as they went with the Taittiriya Upanishad, Mahachamasya was looking at Maha and seeing that that was the highest world that was at that time available to the intrepid spiritual traveling soul that was moving inside. So, we could read that over and over again, but you could see how if you were meditating and you said bur, and then fire would come to you, see, and one of the great kalas might come to you, and then you could say bhuvar, and the sun, and the god of the sun would come to you, and then you'd say svaha, and air would come to you, and the god of air, and then you'd say svaha, and the power of the sun would come to you. And then if you knew about maha, Maharloka, which is where? Right here. If you knew about that, then you would, the lords of light, understanding, hearing, and speech would come to you. And so, as I was saying at the first half, all of these would be connections in you. And you'd be swimming in a world of inner meaning, where everything would be fraught with meaning and blissful and peaceful. What a novel idea that we might actually find that peace inside of ourselves. And out here, fall into a condition of chaos if we didn't. So, a quick study, as I say, but this gives you a little bit more connection here. Now I want to pass into something that would give you even more of a connection, because this is the Gayatri mantra we just talked about, right? Bhur bhuva swaha tat savitur varenyan bhargo devasya dhimohi dhiyo yona prachodayat, as they say in down south India. So basically, you have this great Gayatri mantra that's being uttered even today by millions of people, and has been uttered millions of times, as if it were this most powerful mantra or this great sloka and so forth. And so you want to know what it means if you're a spiritual aspirant, and to connect it to Sadakya and other great systems like that. So there you see, from the Tripura Tapini Upanishad, we find the Gayatri Mantra, if you haven't known where to find that. The Tripura Tapini Upanishad, which is one of the called minor Upanishads that Shankara never got around on commenting on. And here's how it's translated there. On that adorable splendor of the divine creatrix may we meditate. May she our thoughts inspire, who is beyond all darkness. So if we take the first line, Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, which are those three words that go with the three worlds, right? That are bijams, powerful bijams in the mind of God. All they have to do is be uttered, and they're like seeds that release all their potential. Then we see that Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, if we take it apart in English, means the Supreme assuming the guise of the Trinity, comes to be styled as the goddess Tripuri. By her power are fashioned the three abodes, earth, atmospheres, and heaven. Her bijam hrim, along with its terrible power, permeates the terminus of these three peaks, emanating from the junction between the two eyebrows, which is the seat of equilibrium of the three gunas, and where the world of objects gets dissolved. So you immediately get into a very powerful teaching in the Tripura Tapini Upanishad about what even the first three words of the Gayatri mean, and how it connects to the point between the eyebrows, and how her power is there. Her terrible power means the atom power in an atom is nothing compared to all the power in all the atoms that she has, and those are just physical atoms, but they've all come from a power that's subtle particles, and those have come from seeds that are atoms in the deep sleep state, which are even more powerful, endless power. And so the way this gets explained in English is very inspiring. So you couldn't say it more directly there. By her power are fashioned the three abodes, earth, atmosphere, and heaven. So by this power in words, she fashions those. You can see how she does it more clearly by studying something like that. Now the next word is tat, and that one word deserves a whole explanation in itself according to the Upanishads. So I'm taking this out of Vedas, Upanishads, and you can see this is more of a tantric system, probably a good combination of Shaktism and Shaivism is here in this system, and contributed to really by all of India's darshanas, but the emphasis really on the word and on the power in the word is there. So Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat. So what's Tat here? Is verily the eternal Brahman, the indefinable, impeccable, unconditioned, and unconstrained. It thinks, perceives, evolves, and desires the status of consciousness. Thus it evolves as a visible world. Its desiring is done through ascetics, mystics, seers, and their sacrifices. What is desired is born. Being free of desires, it holds sway over all beings. It puts forth letters like T, A, T. Therefore, Tat is desireless desire. Whoso knows all this becomes the Lord. So, more to the point of things, it puts forth letters that are the word for Brahman. See? So these letters are matrikas, right? And they come from alphabets, varnas, and those alphabets are filled with her power, and they fashion worlds, and there are presiding deities and tattvas in those worlds, and it all is presided over by her 5 kalas in the system, and she's the presiding power. See? All of this Upanishadic wisdom is the great secret, and she's the mother of the secret. See? She holds all of this within her. Tripura Tapini, we go back and we see, becomes styled as the goddess Tripuri. It means 3 worlds. So all of these get projected out of her mere words, as it were. Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. And all the things that came out that you saw in the last chart. And much more, of course. So, if you've ever wanted to look into the Gayatri Mantra with its essential meaning, authentically from an Upanishad, this is what is happening here. So we go on to Tat, after Tat, Savitur Varenyam. The root supreme means to give birth to living beings. Savitur thus gives birth to all that lives. Power gives birth. This primeval power is Tripura, the supreme sovereign goddess, great, with earrings adorned, in sphere of fire residing. Varenyan means best or adorable. Whosoever knows this gains all pervasiveness. So it's one thing to become the Lord of the 3 worlds, another thing to know her and gain the power that grants one all pervasiveness, to penetrate all 7 worlds, like Markandeya did, for instance. We were talking about him at the break. The Upanishads, as they're being told by these rishis who have meditated so many generations and so many centuries and millenniums on them and passed them on to sons and daughters and fine students, can't help but all of a sudden wax eloquent about her. Great goddess with earrings adorned, in sphere of fire residing. It sounds like Kali, resides in fire. And there's a beautiful image of her, of course, in back, playing her veena, with the swan in front and the peacock in back, which isn't shown here so well, with the Om sign itself at the tip of her veena, and with her hands in various mudras, and music flowing out of her veena like vibration, and a lotus in one of her hands. All these things very symbolic and indicative of her, as described by the seers who have envisioned her and had such profound experiences with the goddess Saraswati. Now if we go on and finish that mantram, Bhargo Devasya Dhimohi comes next. Da means the highest being, the highest bearing. Bharga signifies the shining one who dwells at the center, who is the imperishable 4th of the 3. So any 4th you would AUM, plus Turiya. Plus Shvara. Or waking, dreaming, deep sleep, plus beyond form, Turiya. So she's the 4th in all of this. She's beyond the Triputis even. Certainly beyond the dualities. But the dualities also come out of her words. It is the innermost of all. The syllable ma denotes greatness, inertness, and solidity. Mohi denotes the earth, what is gross, like seas, mountains, islands, and forests. The word Devasya represents the presiding deities, which are these kalas. So, she's the mother of everything. She's the mother of the gross, she's the mother of the subtle, she's the mother of the good, she's the mother of the evil, she's the mother of the enlightened, she's the mother of the suffering. You can't assign anything to her that would pinion her down to any one thing. She's there in the evil, she's there in the good. And so she's the mother of all. And Holy Mother Shisharda used to say that about herself. All children are mine, and they all come to me, and they'll be cleaned, and if they're dirty, they'll be cleaned and put back into the position where they can realize themselves. And because that's what a mother does when the baby dirties itself, cleans it, puts it back on her lap. So she's that kind of mother and more. We get to the final few words. Diyo yonaha prachodayat means to meditate upon the Supreme Self, Sadashiva. Ooh, see, there we are. Sadashiva presiding over Shantyatija. Who renders us speechless, inspires our thoughts, and who takes us far beyond the sphere of desire for conceptualization to transcendental reality. So there is, like Sadashiva, would render you speechless. These words you're thinking about, these seeds you're about to water, let's not germinate them anymore. Let's just be quiet and withdraw back into your formless essence. And all your desire to conceive of all this, gone. No more worlds of name and form for you. Like Buddha said, have no hope for me, for the worlds forevermore. I'm gone and gone forever. See? It's one of his last utterances before he went into Mahanirvana, the great highest state. So there's another Upanishad I like to draw from these minor Upanishads. You don't hear much. The Devi Upanishad, the Devi Saraswati or Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. A quote from there is, "Without taints I am, being, knowing, living, being, knowing, loving I am, self-shining, devoid of duality I am. To these words conform." So you want to hear who she is, then listen, and then conform to those words and have full faith in her and propitiate her, the Divine Mother within you. When she says, "I am being, knowing, and loving," what does that remind you of? Yeah, Satchit Ananda. So, Sat is pure being, Ananda is, Chit is knowing, and Ananda is bliss or loving. See? So that's how she connects all back to the non-dual Brahman. So another quick study, although of course this is a quick study that you might want to go back and memorize. You all know the Gayatri, so now you want to know what each of those words or phrases mean, right? Because you know why, how much meaning there is in them, and how much power there is in them. Seers have spent years in caves, lost in this, sometimes without eating and sleeping for long periods of time, or in deep meditation for a long time to get to this. Now, where to go with it all, of course, is always a question. We've come out of these two charts, which are fairly easy of understanding. Perhaps we'll use Srishti Rahasya for the beginning chart next week and look at this transformation of the mind. Because now we want to bring the practice of actual mantra down into our own bodies, into our own minds, into our own breath, and our own energy, using these great things to practice the mantra, which we've sought out from an illumined soul called a guru, who's vouchsafed it to us in sacred ritual, and therefore who is able to transmit to us this essence that's in the mantra and try and help us understand that it's Mother Essence that's there. That's the Swarupa there. So this is another way of making it a bit more hands-on for us. Transformation of mind in mantra practice. There you see the ordinary mind up there is that white dot, you see. And on either side it's being pressed, as it were, with the desire to know two things. Tattva Gyan on one side, and Upasana on the other. Tattva Gyan means knowledge of principles. So principles are tattvas, and tattvas are connected to all of this. So the tantric adept who's daksha, intelligent, which is the first thing they want from a tantric aspirant, is to be intelligent, should go and do his studies. And There are different paths of study, different yogas, and which one will take up. But according to your caste, your vocation, your parents, your upbringing, and all of that, and your past samskars in other lifetimes, you'll be brought to these systems, usually under some sort of spiritual guide, or that's also representing one of these great beings, like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or Shakti, Divine Mother. These are like the different lineages and stuff that you're brought to. But in the West, of course, we're not in the know about all of that. So ordinary mind needs to then be informed about Tattva Gyan. On the other side, it needs to purify itself via worship. Upasana would be a kind of worship that you would engage in. On the Tattva Gyan side, that's the objective, and the Upasana, that's the subjective. We see a little way of teaching there inserted. Now you see there that when mantra practice clicks in, then the things that are necessary for it would be diksha, initiation. I mean, I've heard of people, nowadays saying, oh, I'm a lawyer, or I'm a surfer, or I'm this and that, and here, I'll give you a mantra, I'll initiate you. But you need to go knowing all of this. You need to go to a person who can transmit this to you and get your initiation or your mantra from a person who's steeped in mantra or practice of japa. And so that would be the advice of the realized souls, that you're going to need to get a mantra from a teacher who's part of a lineage and who's used that mantra for all his lifetime or her lifetime and goes back to other souls who have used that mantra too. It's called a lineage, or, oops. Yeah, it's okay now. It's called a lineage or a divine succession. Guru Parampara, you want to say. And on the other side of that mantra practice, you see there's Guru and Shastra. Guru really means you need a guide, and Shastra means the guide will know the scriptures, basically. So in Tantra, it's really all not that much different than Vedanta. And Buddhism and other Indian darshanas will want you to get this mantra and practice it. Must be gotten from an illumined soul and the scriptures. So those are basically the three things you want: Guru Anusashana, and a realized soul, and Vidya, Shastra Vidya, the knowledge from the scriptures. Revealed scriptures would be best if you could skirt the others. And then get your own direct experience from it. Once you get this guide and the word, get the guide and the word, then get your own direct experience with it. Now you can see how mantra practice here burgeons down into these three aspects. Now this is a great chart, because this is for those of you who have been practicing mantra for a year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 or 30, and you still don't really think that you've pierced the crust of it, and you know how powerful it is and you have a desire to do so, then you could probably revitalize your mantra at some time. Like our founder, like Sixon was saying, you have to, every moment has to become a rededication of your life to divine reality. You can't go a minute without rededicating yourself to divine reality. That has to be a recurring thought in your mind all the time. Like mother, if you have mother as your ishtam, which is greatest, I think, and then you're dedicating yourself to her all the time. You're sacrificing yourself all the time. You're attenuating your ego by thoughts of her all the time. You're studying the scriptures all the time. It's all a kind of rededication. So you can see here it's put in these three ways: Nidrabhanga, Mantra Chaitanya, and Mantrartha Bhavana. Now, there's a word that you should be familiar with, Bhavana. So repetition is Nidrabhanga. You need to repeat it. That's the science of mantra. Yes, it has to be repeated. You probably need to repeat other things too, like slokas and dharma. So repetition is the spice of spiritual life. You can't become bored with that. Then vitalization means mantra chaitanya. You're supposed to breathe life into your own mantra. It's there. I mean, if we go back on these charts, you can see how she's the power in all those mantras, right? I mean, wherever you go, you can't escape that fact. But you're going to have to find that power, and it's up to you then to get your mantra from the Guru and revitalize it, like you do this all the time. Otherwise, you could just sort of fall into a parrot-like repetition of mantra that didn't have any real power to transform, because you're looking at transforming the ordinary mind now. You're really the Atman, ever free and never bound, and you've got a higher mind in you, but you've fallen into ordinary mind. And you're going to need to change that mind, transform it. Like Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi said, the mind is very important to you at this stage. And what she's saying there is, the mind is not Brahman, but it's very important to you at this stage because you need to use it to get to Brahman. So when it's impure, which we'll talk about purification 2 weeks from now, some of the things you could do to purify the mind. If it's impure, then it's going to be very difficult to transform the mind. If it's mixed, also difficult, a little more possible. But if it's pure, then of course, then you'll be revitalizing your mantra. It'll be living to you. I've seen people doing the mantra in tears, for instance, or in deep states, even without the beads. I know their mantras going on in their heads. So there's a story about Sri Ramakrishna that's very beautiful. He saw one of his students doing the japa beads sitting on the porch, and he said, "Let me see those." So he sat down next to his student and started doing the japa mala, and he just said 3 or 4 repetitions of probably Kali mantra, and the beads just fell out of his hands, and he was already in the state of samadhi. So just remembering, he's so connected to Divine Mother that if he repeated her name, he immediately emerged in her. It was just like natural to him to do that. You might say power of suggestion. Like, if you've say been a surfer for a long time, see, and then you don't surf for years, and all of a sudden someone hands you a surfboard. All of a sudden you're out on the waves in your mind already, drawing lines on this beautiful ocean of mother with her veils coming over you and getting inside of as she tubes over you. It brings it all back to you just by seeing or touching a surfboard. You don't have to go do the thing. So the power of suggestion in Sri Ramakrishna was that strong. Anything spiritual threw him into these moods. We know that about him from Mandernath and other, M, author of the Gospel and all that, who told us about this when he saw it happen, actually, and some of the other disciples. So a lot can be said about vitalization, but it's a very important part of impregnating your mantra or waking up the power in your mantra that's already there. See, you're not actually putting it there. You're actualizing it because it's already there. Be like hatching an egg or something. See. Well, this is all about mantra practice. You see what it contains, these 5 things: initiation, guru and guidance with the scriptures, repetition, vitalization, and finally, oh no, not concentration. Really? Do we have to concentrate? Can't we just leave our minds scattered and somehow get the fruits of the mantra practice? Not. Concentration is like the quintessential step of yoga. People get caught in asana and pranayama, and then they fall out when they get to attempts at concentration. That means concentration for a long time. Get one asana down, like this. Take one breath, in, out, held and suspended, and out and suspended. And concentrate. That's what you need to come to. Everything before that was the early steps of yoga, or your practice. Concentration is the fruit of that. And from concentration you'll get meditation, and from that you'll get samadhi. So you need to follow through with that, just as the father of yoga told you to, or if you're doing it with the tantric way, just as this tells you to. I mean, with this you're reaching Ishvara, aren't you? All of these forms are Ishvara forms. So depending on what path you like, Mother's providing that for you. The Vaishnavas will go to Vishnu, and Shaivas will go to Shiva, and so forth. It's all right there. We want to go back and read it. In meditation, the worshipper leaves the body through the subtle nadi. So he's going into the inside, drawing the consciousness back into the subtle nadi. So that's like right up the Sushumna, or around the Ida and Pingala, and back down. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, I like to call them. But you're Columbus sailing the ocean black. You're not the ocean blue anymore. You're going into the etheric waters where Mother Kali presides, or the ocean white where Saraswati presides. And you're moving inward on these three ships, as it were, along these three nadis, these three channels. So mantrartha bhavana is concentration in Tantra, and so that would be the final touch, you might say, to this 5-part practice of mantra. So now we've gone from ordinary mind with its concomitants to this 5-fold practice. What does it end in? Vidanena mantrochacharanam, utterance of the mantra in 3 ways. So you can do it audibly, you can do it muttered, and you can do it silent. And silent is the superior way. However, there are times that call for out loud. You might want to try that next time you go down in a plane. So your mantra as you head towards your so-called end, and which is just the beginning of another lifetime, or maybe not if you were able to realize what the mantra meant in your lifetime. So you utter the mantra in these 3 ways. So it's not like I gave up one and tried the other 2, then I gave the second and just went to the third. They all have times in which they are effective. They say you've really had your confidence shaken, so you want to say your mantra out loud. So you remember that you're the Atman, and it's making you remember you're the Atman, and you're sure of yourself. It brings back certainty. Mother is, Mother exists, Mother's behind me, Mother's helping me, and my Ishtam is too. And it brings back all the wisdom, say even at the time of death, the mantra should be there, right? And so if that's true, shouldn't it be there also at the time of dream? When you go from waking into dream, you could be saying your mantra, and maybe wake up out of dream after deep sleep, back into the waking state with the mantra still in your mind. You have to, the mind has to practice this, to shift from ordinary to informed. And that's what's coming next. Bodha manaha. Here's the pure mind, and you can see how Vak Devi is right in the center of it. What's Vak mean? A word. There it is. She's the mother of the word. You can't say it more simply than that. All of this is in the word Vak Devi. And she's the power in the word. She's Saraswati. That's why we like to sing to her. Vani Saraswati, Vani Saraswati Vak Devi, Bhagavati Parvati Mampari, Vinapani Hamsavahini, Vedanta Rupini Palayamam, Mani Saraswati Vakdevi, Bhagavati Parvati Mampari. One of those verses says Vedanta Rupini. She's the very form of Vedanta. So how many words of power are there in the Vedanta teachings? She's the very form. Vedanta Rupini. She's the Rupa, the form of that wisdom in the words. So there she is at the center of the pure mind, Bodha, intelligent, Manaha. or Bodha, awakened. The Buddha said, you can say anything you want about me, but you should know one thing, I am awakened. So he awakened to his Buddha nature, and that was enough, and he wanted to teach that to everyone. You have Buddha nature in you. You need to awaken to it. It's just become covered. Sin can't take it away. Hell can't take it away. Devil can't take it away. All of those are in these tattvas as words. You're the master of these words, and she's the power in them, is the ideal. So you can see some of these beings then, Bodhamanaha, what they're called, if they get pure, then they're rishis, you see. And all the Upanishad quotes we had today were from rishis. A very unique type of being that, you know, the world has a hard time seeing in their true meaning and so forth. But you know how many hundreds and thousands of rishis were there in ancient India with these great wisdom systems to pass on to their children, to their students, and so forth. And this is, you know, how they did it. One more esoteric school did it this way. Saints, Mahatmas, or Mahatmas, great souls, Paramahamsas, like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the most recent, Siddhas, perfected beings, sages, and yogis, but just to name a few of some of the beings who get pure minds. Each one of those names could go along a slightly different enlightened path that would be representative of something like Buddhism or yoga or Tantra or Christianity, like saints. So there would be these souls in those traditions that had purified their mind and realized their true nature, whatever they might call it. The Great Spirit within, or Buddha nature, or Atman. Well, this can only go in one final direction. That's toward the Antaryami. I mean, if you want to use that Antaryami, it means inner, ruler, immortal, seated in the heart. So inner sounds to me like you're talking about Kala. Let's see. The inner ruler, immortal, seated in the heart is a divine form that you have emanated from. That's why some of people in the world look like Buddha, the Oriental people and so forth. Some people look like Christ, the Occidental. Some people look like Krishna. Some people look like others, you see. You all have a kind of body type, and they're just tracing that back to your genes and your heredity. But India doesn't do that. They trace it back to the great souls that they came from, through families of rishis, through families of yogis, through families of householder rishis, and all the way back to great souls like Sri Krishna or Ram. And so this is their divine heritage. These are their real ancestors, and they keep pictures of them on their mantle. The ancestors, okay, they find some place in there, but this is their real ancestry. It's a spiritual in nature, because you can get caught in the ancestor realm and be caught there for many lifetimes. Because the ancestors, have they taught you this? Have they taught you this? Have they taught you the Gayatri? Did you get the Dharma from them? What do they want? Heaven. And heaven is a return to earth. Krishna says so in the Gita. By the path of the sun they go, never to return again. By the path of the moon they go, to return again. And so if we go all the way back to these two charts we were just looking at, those nadis that we're talking about, that they depart through, also nadis to return. So some of these beings would be like taking a canoe to a different distant island and burning it. They're not coming back. If you had a pure mind, you wouldn't need to, because desires are usually what bring you back here. However, there are some souls that come back with a desire to assist others get free. They don't come back to help you feel good about yourself in the world. That's all ego stuff. You might have to have one lifetime where you feel good about yourself, but that's not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is eternal life. And read my lips, it's eternal. So you want to take a good English bijam here, let's use the word eternal, you see. Or nitya, infinite, you see. Those are words you need to ponder. Every word can be a mantra. It's got that mother power in it. And so you have to dig it out, as it were. So anyway, back to antaryami on one side, the inner ruler immortal seated in the heart. And this really gives you awareness of spiritual worlds. The antaryami is here, so isn't it at the head of all the spiritual worlds and what they consist of? They're presiding over the tattvas and the bhuvanas and all the words and the utterances and the mantras. This is what they know. This is their art. This is what made them who they are. So if you find an Ishvara form like, say, Krishna, or in more contemporary times, Sri Ramakrishna, they know all of this. It's in Mother, and they know Mother. And so they're the best to go to, to find out about this. So this is why if you find your antaryami, it's a beautiful, antar means inner, and so it's the inner ruler who's immortal, who's seated in your heart, then all of this comes with it. And the more you go from earth to them in your meditations and back to earth, or let's put it, waking, dreaming, deep sleep to Turiya, and back to earth again, waking state, the better for you. Then, like Sri Aurobindo said, you can go up and down the amber stairs of birth and death. He said, I went up and down the amber stairs of birth and death. So he's talking about these systems that take one, master it, or take one, befriend the ishtam of it, get the teachings, master it. What does it sound like? These 5 elements of mantra practice. So you can't just get a mantra and then I won't say it, just go and waste your time. You have to do something with it. On the other side, you see, because the animated chitta is there, right? These beings from the pure mind, they get animated thoughts. And so on the other side is Atman, pure self, or awareness of absolute reality. So the animated thought can lead you to Ishvara, and you may then become one of Ishvara's emissaries. Sri Ramakrishna, some of his 16 disciples were Ishvara Kotis. And there's a path in India called Ishvaravada. And that means souls who are waiting to take embodiment when he incarnates. Every 400, 500, 600 years, maybe, at least in more recent times, see a great soul like that come. They'll usually bring, their crew with them. You see, they're roadies. They're spiritual components who will help them in the work. Sometimes they'll be like John the Baptist, come a little early, you see, or the Bab, for Baha'u'llah, or whatever it is in whatever tradition or path. They're there on the scene, and sometimes they stay after. Like sometimes they say Sri Ramakrishna was this great steamliner that passed through all of this in 1890, in the 1800s, and then left behind these great wake behind his steamliner. There's people who go out and surf those in the harbors when a great steamliner leaves. The guy's out there, okay, it's time. It's summer, there's no waves, so this is our chance. So they go out and they ride the wake of great steam. Well, that's sort of like a metaphor for Ishvara Kotis who are attached to Ishvara or Antaryami, and they'll come back in each lifetime to help. That's their commitment, that's their path. So they have a third eye open and they're watching that soul. He may sit in meditation for 700 years. That's how Holy Mother describes Swami Vivekananda. He's like a wooden statue. He'll sit there in meditation and samadhi for 700 years at a time. So if you want to be there when he's coming back, you're going to have an eye to him. You're going to have to be 700 years strong of concentration. What's that word again? Concentration. What's that word again? What's it? What's the Sanskrit word for it? Dharana. Yeah. Or in Tantra you'd have that equivalent. So, on the other hand, there are beings who might want to dissolve into their Atman, into Brahman, and they won't come back again. Some are Jivan Muktas, some are Videha Muktas. Videha means, I won't take any more bodies, thank you. 700 years isn't a long enough nap for me. I'm gone and gone forever. How's that? I'll see you again. No, you won't. Not in this form, not in any form. I'm not going to take these tattvas on again. So I'll get to the Father through the Son, and I'll go to Brahman. See? And I'm gone and gone forever. So there are these kinds of souls we find out. You can hear about them in Buddhism as bodhisattvas, or in Vedanta and so forth as Jivan Muktas. There's an equivalent of that in formlessness, where the soul will just give up. Like a moth flying into a bonfire, without even the slightest regard for not just this body, for all the bodies. Let me, this takes a whole nother bit of time. So we're almost done here, so let's just read the final quote, and I think we will have covered 3 or 4 charts and given us a good start into the mantra part of this class. Mantra, karma, and purification. So next week we'll come back with some charts on the dynamics of karma yoga, the 4 yogas, and a few other charts that have to do with the karma yoga and the karmas that people formulate, which are negative, mixed, and positive, and colorless too. How you can get to a colorless state with no karmas. The last chant then, mantra is that, the contemplation of which yields special knowledge of the universe, revealing it to be non-distinct from Brahman. In other words, the universe is full of Brahman. So Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, a good way to end the class with words by him, but you can see how he says there, special knowledge of the universe. So that means all the universes. He's not just talking about the physical universe. He's talking about all the worlds he knew and found as he ascended all the chakras to unite with Paramashiva and the Sahasrara at the top in deepest consciousness. So here let's end with a chant. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityanir Amritam Gamaya Abira Mayedi Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Tenamam Pahinicham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.